Alrighty, we are recording now, and I will share my screen. Thank you for the introduction, Anna, and thank you everyone for being here. If you haven't gotten to speak with Anna, you definitely should. That's one of my biggest tips of advice that I give. I'm only 2 years out of college, but I'm still in contact with my career advisor, and definitely build that relationship while you're there. Take advantage of them, and you already are doing the best first step by being here today. So thank you everyone for coming. Can everyone see the screen okay? Steph, you see it?
Oh yeah.
Awesome, perfect. Alrighty guys, well welcome to virtual interviewing with ALKU.
Woo!
Woohoo! Whoops, let me go on here, sorry. Alrighty, oh, here we go. All right guys, so my name is Haley Centrella. We got a little bit of a crazy PowerPoint here going back and forth, but thank you for bearing with us, this new virtual world we're living in. We hope that this can be of some help to you guys. I know a lot of you, everything is so uncertain right now, but it's so great to, be out here, be on these things and really see what the opportunities are. So again, my name is Haley. I'm the college relationship specialist here. Typically, you would see me on campus at Bentley, hopefully, maybe next semester or the semester after that. But I am here to, build and maintain relationships with college campuses and students and find the next best people to come work at ALKU. So I brought my wonderful coworker, Steph, with me. She's definitely going to be giving you guys all the tips and tricks that she has from interviewing at ALKU. But I'm going to hand it over to her to tell you guys a little bit more about herself.
Well, thank you, Haley. Yeah, my name is Stephanie Hayner. I go by Steph, but I am the recruiting manager over at ALKU for our EPIC division within healthcare IT, and I work out of the Andover office. I have been at ALKU for 6 years now, but I feel like I just graduated. But yeah, we love working with Bentley Falcon, so I'm really excited to help share some interview tips with you guys.
Awesome. Alrighty, so you've got the interview. Now what? Am I ready for this interview, or is the interview ready for me? All right, I know. I wish that I had, knowing in my first interview had gone in with the confidence that I've gained, just from being able to work here at ALKU. But, you got to go in confident. This is your ticket. This is really your time to shine and, meet an employer, but also, ask them really good questions about the company and really figure out if, this position is what aligns with you. So we're going to go on here, and Steph's going to take over the interview prep.
Yeah, so in terms of the introduction, I mean, you definitely want to focus on, you want to start off with introducing yourself and say, why you think that you're a good fit for both not only the position, but for the company. So you want to sell yourself based on your experience. So if someone's asking you, what can you tell me about your experience working with people? Instead of saying things back like, oh, I'm really good working with people, I'm a good communicator, I'm a good conversationalist, like try to come up with good examples as to, what jobs that you've had communicating with people. And if you played sports and haven't worked a real job yet, I mean, talking about other situations where you may have had to be a good communicator, like if I was in student council in high school, or different types of positions where you have been able to use those skills. I feel like sometimes people want to think about the perfect response to a question, and really what we want, especially at ALKU, is we want to learn more about you. Mm-hmm. I will ask people right at the beginning of an interview, I'll say, hey, can you tell me a little bit about yourself, maybe your life story in about a minute or two. And sometimes people will go into it saying, I'm a senior at Bentley. This was my first job. This is my major. I am really looking to be successful in life. And what I want to hear about is I want to hear, where did you grow up? What's your favorite deli meat? Like, what's your favorite song? Like, what are your hobbies? Like, what is something about you that is going to make us want to work with you? And like, how are you going to sell yourself of wanting to hear if we're a good fit based on the things that you like doing and things that you enjoy, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Does that make sense, Haley?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And yeah, like I was saying before, telling a story that's relatable is really important. Like, tell me about something that you struggled with. I don't ask the question like, what's your biggest weakness? Just because I think that one's a little bit overdone. But we want to hear honesty. We like to hear people being frank about a time that they may have failed at something. I mean, at ALKU, I mean, I fail in little ways every day. But I think little failures are what help you get up and succeed. So I don't think anyone is a finished product. And I want to hear about a time that maybe you realized that you didn't do the right thing, or maybe you were wrong about something, and you gain perspective from it. I think being able to be humble and to have humility is a really important character trait, especially if you're going into a sales position and going to be working with people. I think people like to laugh, they like to be liked, and they like to be leveled with. And I think if you can share experiences that relate you to others, that's going to put you in a really good position. And then in terms of the asking questions portion of it, I think a lot of the times, I mentioned this before with the what's your greatest weakness thing. I think sometimes people will ask questions because maybe they watched a YouTube and were told that this is a good question to ask on an interview. I want to hear what you're curious about, what you're concerned about, things that you want to know about the day-to-day at ALKU, questions about our culture, things that, recently, a lot of people have been asking, hey, how are you guys doing in the middle of this pandemic? What are some struggles that you've been facing? Things that you actually want to know, as opposed to things that we think it might make you look good on the interview, because I want to actually hear about things that you're curious about and things that'll help you determine if ALKU is the right fit for you.
Mm-hmm. That's really great too. And just to go off that too, questions are so important. When I interviewed with ALKU, I brought in a book of 20 questions. Those were just ones I had prepared. Things from, about the job function itself, about the person interviewing me. I wanted to get to know them, more personally, and really see if they were really happy with their job. And luckily I found that at ALKU. Everyone was so genuine about, being so happy to come to work today. But that was something that was important with me. So definitely make sure, before an interview, you're prepping and you're really trying to identify what your values and interests are, and that you ask questions to see if those align. So, if volunteerism is really important to you, make sure you mention that. Ask a question, be like, hey, I'm super passionate about volunteer for this cause. What does ALKU do in terms of volunteering? So that's just an example to go off of that too. But Steph definitely covered all that great stuff in there. And now we're in this new virtual world, right? So, let's take advantage of this. Things are more accessible now. You don't have to travel really far to get on an interview or go in the car, park the car, walk into a big scary office. Now you're able to do it from home. But with that, we definitely have some tips and tricks for ways to, be successful at virtual interviewing. I like to say, treat this interview as you are in person. So sometimes, we can dress right on the top. But if you have an interview, you wake up in the morning, you have a cup of coffee, and you get dressed from top to bottom, you're going to feel a lot better than you did if you just keep your pajama pants on and put on a nice suit coat. So I like to say, even though they can't see the bottom half, it's really great in terms of motivating you and making you feel ready for it. Definitely find a quiet room to set up in. Check your Wi-Fi connection prior. I recommend getting on there, even an hour early, just to check the Wi-Fi. Make sure everything's situated that way. Have your laptop fully charged or charging. Have something as a backup just in case. If it is on Zoom, it doesn't hurt to just download the Zoom app in case your computer does have function problems. With this new world we're living in, technology issues are, they are coming, and it's really how you, react and roll with it that shows employers, oh, wow, they have problem solving skills. They had a backup ready. Definitely have like a blank wall, which I don't have right now. I'm at home, so I have this wonderful little virtual background here, which makes my hands look weird, but that's just an example. And definitely, again, dress business professional. I like to say here at ALKU, have a notebook and pen and paper. If you don't, have a notebook, pen and paper, and you want to take notes on your computer, I say that, you should tell the interviewer that, be like, hey, Steph, by the way, just so you know, I'm not distracted. I'm just taking notes on here. And, you know, usually the interviewer might tell you the same thing, or that they have your resume up on the other screen. So, you know, they're not just not paying attention to you, but they're looking at something concerning you. Also have your resume with you. You want to be able to speak on your resume without reading it. Here at ALKU, we're a little different in terms of that, you know, we aren't asking you what exactly was this position. We want to hear more of a story about you, like Steph said. But it's good to have your resume with you. You need to be able to speak on those things if you are going to write them about yourself. And again, log on early. It's being early to an interview is on time. You want to be early. You want to make sure everything's working. And that just shows, you know, so much of hard work and ethic already off the bat. So it's good to go in strong and early.
Yep. If you're not early, you're not on
You're
time.
late.
If you're on time, you're late.
Yes. And then during the interview. So sit close to the camera. Of course, you know, you don't want to be up here, but again, Steph can probably tell you this, seeing someone that is close, engaged, it's exciting. And that's what we want to see. We want to see someone that's really paying attention, that's really, you know, engaged in the conversation. Maintain good posture. I am always working on this myself. Definitely trying more now that I'm from home, but, you know, avoid leaning back in your chair, being this far away. That's not as personal when you're back here or you're moving around a lot. I know it's harder than said because you probably are nervous. In college during public speaking, I was always kicking my feet. And that was always the thing that they told me not to do. So little things like that, pay attention to. Hey, if you need something to hold on to and play with, do that. Just don't be showing it in the screen. And of course, you know, this is harder than anyone else can say, but look at the interview, not yourself. We all struggle with this, let's be honest. We're checking out the different boxes on Zoom, but, you know, keep that in mind. Try to, you know, really look into the camera when you are telling your story or an example of something you did. Mannerisms and posture, again, make it feel like it's in person. The biggest thing from here, and Steph can definitely elaborate on this, bring the energy. Have a cup of coffee before if you need it. Don't go out the night before, things like that. You want to be so alive, so present. You want to show them that you're excited to be there, that you're engaged, enthusiastic, especially here at ALKU, because that's the type of people we're looking for. But if there's anything else you want to add, Steph, please feel free to jump in on that.
Yeah, bring energy as I'm jumping out of my seat. Something that I think, because I think one of the things that I struggled with through my life experiences during public presentations and even interviews are using those filler words like and like. I know I just said the word like before I said those two words, but something that's really helpful is to video yourself having a mock interview. Obviously, it's not going to be exactly how the interview is going to go, but you are going to cringe when you watch it, and you're going to want to immediately correct all the amount of times that you say words like and like. Another thing that I say a lot is, you know. So it takes looking at videos like that to kind of give yourself that push to maybe work on those things. But that's a little tip and trick that I have to add on that. And then bring the energy, especially at ALKU, you're going to be speaking to 4 or 5, sometimes 8 different managers. And
I spoke to 12.
Yeah, interviews can be long, but every single person you talk to, you have to treat it like they're the first person that you're speaking to. Just because you asked a lot of questions to the first person that you spoke to does not mean they know that you asked those same questions to the next 4 to 6 people, because people can add different perspectives and viewpoints on things that maybe the first person didn't have. So every person you're talking to, make sure to bring that energy. I know it can be tough. I know interviews can be draining, especially when you are graduating and you're doing them all the time, every single week. So just keep that in mind, because one of the first things we notice and one of the first things that we will comment on when giving feedback on interviews is the energy level.
Yep. It's what I see right off the bat. It's, you know, they didn't come with the energy. And you can be, you know, a 10 candidate, but if you come on slumped and just nodding your head, then, there's times that someone could be a 10, but because they didn't bring the energy, they weren't enjoyable to talk to, So definitely bring that energy.
Yeah, and I kind of touched on this earlier a little bit, but like we were saying before, making sure to provide examples of where and when you've had certain experiences. It doesn't matter how long ago it was or what type of environment it was in, but examples of a time that you overcame adversity or a time where you had to have a difficult conversation with somebody. But to the first bullet, making sure you communicate and articulate. Try not to mumble, make sure to speak loudly, clearly, and concisely. And when we say concisely, it doesn't mean one-word answers. Make sure that you do give detailed information about the point that you're trying to make, like giving your example. So I had to have a difficult conversation when I was the captain of my lacrosse team, and two of my best friends were also on the team, but they weren't showing up to practice on time. And that was a really difficult time for me, but it taught me how to have difficult conversations and be able to challenge those around me to want to work on those things. And it made me a better person because of it. Like something like that, making sure that you're giving details, but you're not going into, maybe you don't have to go through the backstory about how you met those two friends that you're playing lacrosse with. Mm-hmm. But another thing is to show focus in relation to career goals. So questions like, where do you see yourself in 5 years? You might not want to start off with, oh, I want to work here and then go to grad school. You want to tell them about your career goals, but show them that you're open to, you're open to growing your career. Things like, I know that I want to be financially independent. I want to lead others. I want to make improvements in my performance every single day. I want to be the best person at this job and to be at the top of the commissions report every single week. I want to make the President's Club trip every year. Things that you want to accomplish, as opposed to, I want to work in a big office. I want a lot of time off, things like that. It's definitely important to ask questions about our culture, what the time off policy is, things like that. They play an important role in the job that you're going to have. But when we're talking about career goals, making sure that, you're talking about actual goals that you have for your long-term career. Mm-hmm. And also being yourself and being personable. Like I mentioned before, like I want to hear about you. I want to hear if you are watching a new Netflix series. I want to hear about the best book you've ever read. One time I was talking to this boy who was interviewing, and he lived in North Carolina. He was interviewing for our Charlotte office. And I asked him, I was like, what's something about you that I guess that would surprise me? And he goes, I'm obsessed with Ariana Grande. I'll never forget him, because he was so genuine and honest about what he likes to do. And he was a strong yes for me. So just showing your true personality and not being afraid to be yourself, that also shows that you're confident in yourself. It shows that you know who you are. It shows that you can be yourself, and that's something that we're looking for, especially in sales professionals. We are talking to people on the phone every day that are C-level executives, but they're other people. And if you're going to separate yourself from other people calling them, you're going to need to show your true, authentic self. And that's why I brought up asking people their favorite deli meat. Obviously, if people don't eat meat, that might not go over so well, but you have to separate yourself in a certain way. And I think just being personable, and just showing your true colors is going to go a long way.
Absolutely. And it gives them something to remember too.
Exactly. And then to close the interview. So asking for immediate feedback. My favorite question that people ask me when they're interviewing is there any reason why you don't think I'd be a good fit for this position? Or is there anything that I said to you that you would like me to clarify that might ease some concerns that you might have? I love those questions because it shows interest. It shows that they're looking for immediate feedback, and it shows that they actually want the job. Because at the end of the day, whether they are selected for the job or not, they are looking to grow as a professional. They're looking to work on themselves, and that's huge. So definitely, I don't know if anyone wants to write this down, but is there any reason why you don't think I would be a good fit for this position?
Mm-hmm.
You can
I
phrase it
asked
like
that in
that.
my interview.
You can phrase it. You can phrase it in however way makes you feel the most comfortable. Definitely don't try to sound different than you are, but asking questions like that definitely goes a long way, and it puts me on the spot.
Yeah, it puts you in a hot seat, right?
Yeah, I have no choice but to give genuine feedback, like, hey, and what we'll try and do is before the next interview, we'll give tips. If somebody they might be nervous on the first interview, and so sometimes I'll say, hey, next person you speak to, make sure you bring the energy, or next person you speak to, make sure you make eye contact. Like maybe you were a little bit nervous, but you were kind of looking all around the place. So it's only going to help, so that's what I would have to say about that. And then asking if they have any doubts goes off of what I just said. You can say, do you have any doubts or anything, any of my past experiences that you do think would resonate well with this position, or why do you think I would be a good fit here?
Mm-hmm. And that shows your real immediate interest too. I know in my interviews, I had a lengthy interview process, but I am so glad I did, because now I work here and I've had the opportunity to meet all those people before I even started. But really, tell them you're interested. I said it straight up in my interview after walking into ALKU's office and seeing the energy. I sat down and I said, at the end of the interview, I said, hey, if I were given the opportunity to work here, I would outwork anyone. I really want to work here. And that's something that they want to hear. They know they're not wasting their time. And, if you are able to express that, again, like Steph said about, asking about feedback and doubts, it shows confidence. And it shows, that you are a real person and that you do have an interest there. You don't have to be afraid to tell the employer, like, hey, I really want to work here. I'll do whatever it takes, and I'll bust my butt and I'll try my hardest. And they want that. So that's
Definitely.
Just a little advice I have.
And I think another good question too are things like, what within the first 6 months to a year, what are the accomplishments that what are the expectations of what makes a person successful in this time frame? Or what are the characteristics that your leadership team has and what you look for in your leadership team? Or what are the most common character traits of people or tendencies of people that don't work out long term? And that way you can kind of sell experiences that you've had to show that, you are those things or you're not those things of people that don't work out. Yeah. So those are some other questions that I think are beneficial.
Yeah, that's a great tip. And the follow-up.
Oh yeah, so we love being followed up with. I always make a mental note anytime somebody follows up with me. I personally love to be followed up with over the phone. The internal recruiter that you're working with will usually send the contact information for the managers that you're going to be speaking with. So immediately after the interview, if somebody's following up with me over the phone, thanking me for my time, bringing up something about the conversation we had, I love that, because we can tell if you send the same email to all of us. So make sure to personalize them, because we all sit together, we all talk. It's obviously, if you're making that touch point, it's going to look good no matter what. But to go the extra mile by actually bringing something up that you had talked about in the conversation, like, hey, I thought it was really great that you also waitressed at the Portsmouth Brewery in college. We had some great times there, something like that, just to familiarize them with your interview and to show that you were actively listening and paying attention. And I think that definitely goes a long way. I love being added on LinkedIn immediately after. I have actually had people LinkedIn connect with me before an interview, and then I go in kind of with a positive bias because they've already tried to link me in. But also expressing interest in the position. If I get an email saying thank you for your time without much else, I don't really know what they're looking for. I don't know if they're just saying thank you. Yes, it's still polite, but that's your last opportunity to sell yourself. So make sure you're saying something about how I'm really excited about this position. Please let me know next steps as soon as possible. I'd love to hear feedback about how it went. Hopefully I'll be talking with you soon. I'm really interested in this position. Asking about next steps, like I just mentioned, and then being timely.
Yes.
Send a thank you as soon as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And then to go the extra mile, if there's a position that you are, that's at the top of your list, so most likely ALKU, not biased, sending a personalized thank you note. I personally love it. Not everyone needs to do it. Not everybody, it doesn't make a huge difference to everyone, but depending on the company that you're interviewing for, I know I think it's a great touch because it's another way to separate yourself.
Mm-hmm, for sure. Yeah. And just a little tips from my interviews with ALKU. As I said, keep that notebook and paper. I wrote down stuff about every person I talked with. And then afterwards, I got in my car and I was like, okay, that was awesome. I want to work there. I called the internal recruiter and I sat in my car and I typed out emails. And I literally went back to every note I had on each person, for example, Regan, and I just grabbed something that I really liked about our conversation and I included that. So I was able to say like, I really loved being able to connect with you about our big families, and we come from big families. But also hearing about your growth within the company inspired me. And if given the opportunity to work with you, it would be an honor. Things like that. You want to really mention something specific because people, managers are, they're interviewing a lot of people typically. So any way that you can stand out and make them remember you by mentioning something specific that they said or even something about themselves is a great way to really stick on their minds.
Definitely. And you're here now, so it must have worked.
I loved what you said too about the LinkedIn beforehand. I've actually heard that recently, and I've done it. I've always creeped on people's LinkedIns. I'm like, oh, who am I meeting with? Yeah, don't be afraid to add them, guys. It really shows that, you're prepared for it. They're not going to get upset with you for, looking at their LinkedIn page beforehand. Look at it, see what their experience is. Be like, hey, I noticed I was super ready for this interview. I saw that you've been here for 3 years. Tell me a little bit about your growth here. Things like that. Don't be afraid to do that. So yeah, then we have some additional helpful tips. I know with you guys being so busy and applying for all these jobs, there can be an issue sometimes of over applying. Make sure if you are applying for jobs that you are ready to pick up the phone. This is really, your first vision of you is, if you're going to pick up the phone, if you have a professional voicemail recording. Some of the internals on our internal recruiters on our team say, hey, yeah, we called this person, but it sounded like, a 5th grade voicemail or something like that. You want to be prepared. If you're sending out your resume and your phone number, that's because people want to contact you about scheduling an interview. So make sure, you're prepped for that. You have a professional voicemail, that you don't have, your middle school ringback tone playing when they're calling. I've heard that one too from my manager, Marissa. And absolutely, I know this goes without saying, but clean up your social media and update LinkedIn. I'm not sure if Steph does this, but, I've heard from people that interview here at ALKU that the first thing they do before an interview is Google the person's name. And every interview I have gone into in the past, I've Googled my own name beforehand. Just, make sure that you see what's there. So again, research the company prior to applying. This will give you such leverage. And if you don't, there's a bit of a red flag there already. You want to show you're interested. You want to show them that you have researched and spent time and that you're really putting effort into this. And really get out of your comfort zone. Again, I know Steph will touch on this more, but showing that, you can get out of your comfort zone, it's harder than said, but it shows that confidence, and that you're not willing to give up, that you can stand out. So yeah, sorry about my filler words there.
Oh, you're good. I don't even want to know how many times I've said, already on this presentation. So I'm glad it's recording so I can watch it and cringe later. But yeah, I agree with everything Haley said. I think it's also okay because we know you're busy and you're applying to a lot of positions and you're trying to navigate graduation and starting a new job, and whenever the recruiter calls you, it might not be the most opportune time for you to talk about your candidacy, and you might not have all of your notes in front of you. It is okay to say, oh, thank you so much for calling. I'm so excited to hear from you. Do you mind if I take a second to pull up my notes so I make sure I'm prepared? Or if you're somewhere where it's not appropriate to be taking a call like that, like if you're in a restaurant or somewhere and it's just you're not going to be able to fully focus, it's okay to ask if you could call them back and set a time. Definitely don't say, hey, it's not a good time. Can you call back later? Like try and explain, hey, I don't feel like I'm not prepared enough for this call right now. I'm not in a good environment where I can really give you my full attention. I want to make sure I have all of my notes ready. Is there a time that works best for you this afternoon that I can reach out to you to discuss the position and answer whatever questions you may have and next steps? I think it's okay. You don't have to feel like you have to answer everything right then and there on the spot if you really don't think you're in a good position to. But on the other token, like Haley said, be confident. Be excited on the phone call. Bring the energy. Make sure that you are doing the research beforehand, so that way when somebody does call you, you are prepared with a few things. So at least you remember the position that you applied to. I can't stress how many times I used to sit next to Delaney on the recruiting team. How many times she was on the phone calling people and they didn't even know what ALKU was, what the company was. It's okay if you don't know our 5 business principles, but if you don't know the name of the company you applied to, that's not a good look. So do yourself a favor and at least have a Microsoft Word document, something that you can keep, and maybe on the notepad on your phone. I had that when I was applying places of the different companies I applied to. So that way you can at least remember if someone's saying, hey, I'm calling from ALKU, oh, that's a company that I applied to this week. I also love when someone has a professional LinkedIn. I don't want to see a picture on LinkedIn that you might have as your Instagram picture. This is the professional world, and we want to see your smiling face. If you're in a picture with a bunch of people or it's not the most professional, I'm sure you look very nice, but make sure that you're using a professional picture. A lot of schools, and there are a lot of resources that can help with headshots if you'd like. I know the Bentley Career Center does a great job with that, probably one of the best. So there are a lot of resources to help with little nuances as it pertains to LinkedIn and the social media thing too. We look at it. So just make sure that you are presenting yourself as your best self. But yeah, you really cover much of that. So
to go off that too, I know Tyler Bush mentioned, he goes, someone was like, when you're looking, and you Google someone's name and you're able to see their public Instagram, like what are you looking for? And he says, just if they're happy people. He's like, I like seeing happy people. And that's just a good little tip that I have too. So any questions? I will stop sharing my screen so that we can kind of open it up a little. But I'll chat Steph's email in here too, so that you guys can have both of those to follow up with any questions. I will stop sharing here for a second, and I'm gonna drop our emails in. But please, guys, we would really love if you unmuted, even showed yourself, and ask some questions. I mean, we're here for your disposal. If you have any specific questions or you want any further advice, pick our brains. I'm going to drop the emails there.
I can touch on this too before we get into it. Questions about the types of candidates that we look for at ALKU specifically. We hire based off of character traits. So regardless of your major, currently, the people that we hire, like Tyler Bush, he looks for people that are happy. We look for fun, upbeat, outgoing, motivated, hardworking individuals with a sense of humor, or at least the ability to laugh at all the bad jokes that I tell on a given day. But
yeah, I think it, and something too that touches upon us is that being able to be yourself in your work environment, you never want to change who you are for an interview. if you have to do that, then maybe that's not your home. That's not, where you should be if you have to really change who you are to a specific job or interview. I know for myself, my favorite part about ALKU was that in the past, I am a goofy, I can be a goofy person, but I work super hard. And I've been in situations where I was looked at, well, maybe she's not taking it seriously because, she has fun while she's working. But that's where I found here, I could be myself in an interview. I could talk about my family and they wanted to hear it. And I could be a little bit goofy and they realize, that's okay. It's good to be having fun when you're working hard. So
Definitely.
it's rewarding.
I remember in my interview, our CEO, Mark Eldridge, who was an English major, by the way. So that's part of the reason why I said that, your major and what you may have thought you wanted to do when you started college or even when you're graduating. I mean, things can change, but our CEO is an English major. And in my interview, he asked me something that was different about me that I might not have on my resume. And I said to him straight up, I said, I do voices.
Me too.
You did?
Well, I didn't tell him that, but I do voices, and I told Marissa.
Okay, we'll have to do voices sometime. But I could he was so, he called me a few hours after the interview and he was like, that was so great. That was the first thing that came to mind because it showed how genuine you were. Mm-hmm. Obviously I talked about working hard and wanting to be successful. And I had said that ever since I was in high school, I knew that whatever I did as a job, I wanted to be the best at it. And I wanted to be able to look back and say, I did this on my own and I did this for me. Mm-hmm. But when someone's asking you what makes you different, it's not always your hard work. For some people it could be, but typically there's something fun in there. And a lot of the times that's what we want to hear. I'm sure that's what you would want to hear from somebody too. But like Haley said, you don't have to make something up either and try to be somebody different, but try and think about what makes you unique and don't be afraid to incorporate that.
Mm-hmm. Does anyone have any questions about, responses, what to do if you don't have the right answer? I know there's got to be some. If you don't feel comfortable taking your mute off, you can drop them in the chat and we can answer that way, but we'd love some questions here. We got 17 minutes left with you guys, so take advantage of us. Ask us some questions.
Talk the whole time.
Hello, thank you for all of this. This has been super helpful.
Awesome.
My name is Rena, and I'm graduating in December, and I'm just starting my job search. And I honestly had not much. I heard some tips here and there, but this has been definitely the most kind of helpful, informative session. So I appreciate that.
Oh, good.
Yeah, so I wanted to ask about, I know I need to touch up my LinkedIn. I definitely, like you mentioned, a better picture. I've been planning on doing it for a while and just updating my resume. But do you have any tips for kind of navigating the huge job market? I'm graduating with a management degree, but just really have not much idea which direction to take it. So
yeah, I would say to keep an open mind, try to cast a wide net. And when I say that, I don't mean apply to every position that's posted, but
don't mass apply.
Yeah, don't overthink things though. If you feel like you're a good fit for a position and you might be missing one or two things that they look for, you should apply. And also find somebody on LinkedIn. When you look at the company, you don't always have to look at an open job, but you can think about companies that you really like. For example, I'm obviously going to sell ALKU to everyone and anyone, but if somebody wants to work for Google or HubSpot or Apple or Facebook, just throwing out those big organizations, but look up people who work at that company and send them a message. Shoot your shot, introduce yourself, tell them who you are and say what you're looking for, tell them what you like about the company. It doesn't have to be too long-winded, but there could be positions that aren't posted yet. So try to take your top maybe 3 or 4 companies that you're interested in. So ALKU and 3 others. And don't be afraid to message somebody that works there and make it somebody that would be more likely to help you out. Like someone who's probably been there for maybe between 1 and 5 years who would be using LinkedIn more. But I think that's something that a lot of people don't think about because most companies will offer referral bonuses
Mhm.
to refer friends. I love my friends, but they're all happy in their positions, and I've tried to recruit them many times. But if anyone reaches out to me about working at ALKU, I am floored with
Yep.
excitement. So that's one thing that you can do, is message people directly, but also, as I mentioned, don't be afraid to apply to a position that you might think you're underqualified for. You never know what it could lead to.
Mhm.
Somebody could reach out to you about a different opening there. So just keep an open mind.
Yeah, and really quick to go off that because I can relate heavily, Rena. I was a management major, and with that, it was very broad. I wasn't sure which way I wanted to go. And throughout my really lengthy interview and offer process with all different companies in Boston, I really wasn't finding the right fit for me. But that's because all I was concerned about originally was the job position title. For some reason, I was so obsessed with this, finding that exact position I wanted. And the best thing I ever did was taking a step back and looking for companies. I went into ALKU and this position wasn't even open yet. But I met someone, my manager within my interviews, and she was like, you know what? I think we could make this work. And I said, I'm willing to do any position. I just really want to work at this company. And that's what really helped me, was taking a step back and looking for a company where you can be yourself, where there's opportunity to grow. And that's my biggest tip. Definitely.
Yeah, and a good resource for that too is Boston Business Journal. They send out a list of the best places to work every single year, and it is in categories from extra small to extra large. That's how popular the event and the list has become over time. So I strongly recommend going onto that website and looking at those lists and researching some of those companies. I know some people like to work at startups. Some people want to work and grow within a huge organization. Take a look at them and see, because they talk about what they offer. Some places they do unlimited PTO. Some places they offer pet insurance. Look at places that other people have said is the best place to work, because those surveys get sent out to the entire company. We all take them at ALKU. So if you look at that, you already know it's a good place to work, and then you can choose based off what they have to say about the company, if that's somewhere that you'd want to apply to.
Thanks a lot. That was super helpful. Thank you. And I'll reach out with any follow-up questions as well.
Of course. Yeah. We're looking for those December grads too. So definitely reach out.
Yeah. And thanks for speaking up, Rena. We appreciate it.
Do
you guys recommend reaching out to recruiters directly if we believe that they are the ones who are going to read our application or would know the most about the position?
Absolutely. I would say, yeah, just as I mentioned, reaching out to somebody that works there, absolutely reach out to the recruiter.
Shows eagerness.
Yeah, because I have reached out to people of the company, but I am apprehensive about reaching out to the recruiter directly because I wasn't sure if it was too forward or if it was a good thing.
Oh, no, I would say definitely reach out. If you applied a few days ago, I know we do a really great job of getting back to people right away. I know not a lot of companies are the best at that. Sometimes they do try to get back to people quickly. There's a chance that they do plan on reaching out to you, but sometimes things get lost in translation, and it doesn't hurt to reach out to them at all. They were probably planning on reaching out at some point, but if, like Haley said, it shows that you're interested, and it's definitely not too forward at all. If anything, I think it would get you an interview more quickly because you're putting yourself at the top of the to call list. So, and then if they don't get back to you, then probably shows that they're probably not an organization that you want to be working for anyway.
Yep. And also too, keep in mind, the timing. Right now, there's so many career fairs going on and events like that. So companies may, be a little backlogged right now and trying to call all the candidates that are applying. So of course, there's no harm in following up and reaching out to the recruiter, but give them a couple days and then definitely reach out for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for speaking up. Any other questions?
Does anyone have any questions about about sales or
ALKU, or
working
you got
full-time
any
for the first time?
interview
And,
questions for us?
Hi.
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 So I'm wondering if there is any like entry-level analyst positions opening right now at ALKU.
So we don't have any analyst positions at the moment. Right now we are hiring for our revenue side. So we're hiring for entry-level sales and our sales internship program. But with that being said, as our revenue grows like crazy, Steph can tell you that we're growing really fast. There's always, there's always room for corporate to grow as well, because we're here to just support revenue.
All right, thank you so much.
Yes.
I had one question. During interview, like we need to answer what actually interview wants from us, the answers, or like to be actually true to the answer, like what we feel about it. Like during behavioral questions, like if sometimes we think that this is right, but we have to answer what they want or what the other person feels right. So what exactly?
Yeah, so that's a great question, and I appreciate your honesty. And I would say answer honestly. Tell them how you feel. You don't have to tell somebody what you think they want to hear. I mean, it's a mutual interview. So at the end of the day, the place that you're interviewing, yeah, might not be your top choice or might not be your favorite position you've applied to. So you don't have to tell everywhere you interview, hey, you're my number one choice. You're my top choice. But you can tell them how interested you are and the things that you really enjoy about the company in the interview and their values. But if they're looking for your career goals or what what is going to make you successful or things that you're interested in or your strengths, etc., tell them the truth. Because at the end of the day, if they think that you're this and you're that, and they hire you because they think you're this, you're not gonna like your experience, and you know what I mean. But that's a fair question, because I do interview a lot of people who will give answers that I can tell don't really line up with the rest of the responses they gave, because the entire interview they're telling about themselves, they're very genuine, they're talking about their family, they're talking about experiences they've had, and then when I ask if they have any questions, they give me, the very generic, I'm trying to think of a generic question, but you know what I mean. One of those questions that everyone asks on every single interview that is outdated, but I would say definitely show your true self, ask your real questions, and ask for feedback after the interview. And if it's something that they didn't want to hear or could be worded differently, you can use that as feedback. But that's a great question. Hopefully my answer helped.
I had one more question.
Yeah.
Actually, I have these two screens. One is laptop and I have this monitor also. So I always tend to get, in one-to-one sessions, like where to see or like to the person. There are, like, as you said, I have a habit of to type notes or write it down. So like my Word document is open. So I don't know, like sometimes it gets like I'm looking at that person, but if they are saying like I'm looking somewhere else, then
I would just tell them and be honest, be like, hey, before we really jump into it, I just want you to know I'm taking some notes here and I have a dual monitor. So if you see my eyes going across the screen, don't think I'm distracted.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, you can ask in the beginning too, hey, I think I'm looking at you, I'm not sure. Can you give me some insight on that? Because I've had people in the beginning, they think they're looking at the monitor with me on it, and they're looking at their resume to follow along. So
thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other brave souls? I know we only have a couple minutes left here, but we'd love to answer any last questions you guys have.
So now that you're working from your computer, are you able to work from anywhere?
Yeah, so Steph, you're in the office, right?
Yeah, so I'm in the office. There's a lot of decorations in this this office right now, so that's why I have this little news anchor screen. But I'm in the office, but people that are working remotely, it's funny because we never had remote work as an option here. Not for any specific reason, but I mean, we work so well together as a unit. So having people apart, we've been upset about it because we don't get to see each other every day because we love working together. But people can pretty much work anywhere as long as, as long as they're.
I have good Wi-Fi.
Yeah, have good Wi-Fi. And if they're traveling to go work in that location, that they quarantine when they get back. And, if you're gonna go work remotely in Hawaii, chances are you're probably not going to be doing a ton of work the whole time being there. So, but yeah, essentially, people that are remote can really go anywhere. Ideally, the same time zone, I would say.
Yeah, and even with that too, like since I'm from home and Steph's in the office, it's a good example because before our culture is so strong here. So the environment was always, the best part. And they've really, really done so much that they can to really transfer that to work from home. We have virtual comedians come on. They're sending me packages. My family thinks I'm part of a sports team. They're like, what is this ALKU box coming again? But, they want to make it fun. And we definitely do a good job at making sure that we're all communicating. We have company-wide chats and all of that fun stuff. So it makes working from home easier.
Yeah, something I would say too, and I'm glad you asked, Rena, because it brought up another thought that I had that I didn't mention before. I think asking about the remote culture at an organization now more than ever is really important, because one thing I noticed when we all started working remotely was how lucky I was to work somewhere where the thing we were working on the most was trying to mimic and parallel the office feel. I felt very isolated at first because we were still trying to figure out how we'd get on meetings together, how we would interact with each other. Is anyone checking in on anyone? I have 5 people that are currently reporting to me, and not only was I making sure I was reaching out to them constantly, but I wanted to be reached out to as well, because I wasn't seeing my coworkers every single day. So I think asking them about any struggles they've faced since going remote, and what ways do they try to mimic their culture and their communication with each other, I think are good questions to ask, because personally, I don't want to sit by myself all day and not be followed up with or interacted with. Some people do like to do that, but I think it's a good question to kind of show how much people are engaging with their employees in a time like this on the day-to-day.
Yeah, and even to show how a company is handling COVID, because we are actually growing throughout, COVID-19, which for me is so exciting because I get to be a part of that. But it's a great question to ask employers, like, how has it been adjusting to COVID, and what are some things you've done? Because you'll really be able to see, the company's problem solving as a whole, and really how resilient they are against the odds that we have right now. So definitely a good question to ask.
Yeah, like if you can go back in time, like what things would you may have done differently? What are some lessons you've learned? What is your goal for, if we do have to transition to remote work as more of the norm? Because who knows? What are some things that you would be working on with that?
I'm so glad to hear that ALKU was able to maintain its culture even though you went remote. So thanks again for everything.
Thank you guys. We'll see if there's one last question here. If not, thank you all so much for coming on. I hope this was of help to you, and hopefully I hope to connect with you guys in the future and maybe see some applications come in.
Yeah, I think it's really telling of how interested you all are. I know it can be scary to speak up, and I really appreciate those that did speak up today. But even if not, it just shows how interested and how serious you are taking the job search, and it means a lot to us that you're able to join virtually. We go to so many events in person, and that's kind of been our main outreach, but now we've had to pivot and come up with different strategies, and this already kind of separates you all from the rest of the candidate pool by how dedicated you are to your career. So either way, I think it's amazing and very impressive that you all were able to join today.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a final thought. Thanks a lot for all of you. I'm so glad that I attended this meeting, and I'm not surprised also how energetic you are and how you truly reflect your culture and the company culture. Before the meeting, I just did a brief research about ALKU, and
Mm-hmm.
I found just one criteria that you are looking for at every candidate, which is you must be motivated and happy. And that really surprised me. And I told myself, let's see those people. I want to see that happiness
Yeah.
and how the culture of their company will be reflected on
On us.
their communication. Yeah, and I'm not surprised now to see how energetic you are, how happy you are at ALKU, and that's something really amazing. I would like to thank you so much for this informative session. Can't wait to get an opportunity to talk to you guys, either for an interview or even in an opportunity to work at ALKU or in conjunction with ALKU. I will be glad to do that. My name is Ahmed, and I am a new student, graduate student at Bentley. I am an MBA student with major in marketing. And yeah, again, I'm so glad to be part of this event. And you truly made our day, made all.
Oh,
Oh, thanks, Ahmed. That's so nice of you.
I
Yeah,
know.
We really appreciate it. I'm glad that this has left a a positive impact. I remember how stressful the search and navigating applying and that whole process is. I can't imagine what it's like right now. So
Yeah. Thank you so much for that. That was so sweet. And I
yeah,
have
I was
to
like, I was gonna cry.
I have to relate with you on that. I know that's really why I work here, is because in my interviews, I had so many interviews before and not one person was genuinely happy. And that was a huge red flag for me because, I'm a happy person and I want to be surrounded by other happy people. And of course, I have days where I'm not in a good mood, but in general, I try to look at it half full, glass half full. And I think everyone else here does. And when I came in for my interviews and I saw how genuinely happy and radiant everyone was, I was like, that's it. Done deal for me. I'm in there.
Yeah, we
Thank
really
you.
appreciate that. I was still in that because I heard John Maxwell said it one time when a company brought him to interview people and he gave him a list of criteria that they want from the candidates coming to their company, and he said, I can't do that. And he asked him why we hire you to do that, and he said, you guys don't have any of those criteria, so how you are requesting me to bring you candidates with certain criteria you don't have?
Yeah.
So it's really important that the company, the culture, do what they already have and offer their employees what they need them to do later while working with them. So again, I'm so happy to be part of this event, and I wish you guys all the best.
Same to you. Same
Thank
to
you
you.
so
And good
much.
luck this semester. I appreciate you saying those kind words. It makes our jobs that much better, hearing that feedback. So I appreciate it. And thanks for popping in here.
Thanks a lot.
Alrighty, guys. This was so awesome. Anna, thank you for this opportunity to connect with these awesome students. This was so great. I'm gonna stop recording here so that I can get this on WeTransfer.com and send it over to you.
Great. Thank you both so much. You did such an incredible presentation. I totally agree with the students. The information was like far beyond helpful. It was so honest and genuine and insightful. So everyone definitely learned something today. So thank you both again. And thank you to all the students for attending.
Yeah,
you.
thank you guys. Have a great rest of the semester. Good luck. Keep rolling with the punches. It's going to get better and we're going to come out on top. So thank you so
Yeah,
much.
we will.
Bye,
Thank you all so
everyone.
much.
Take care.